Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
All right, welcome to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. Today I'm talking to you about the second foundational element in this series on my book, 10 Foundational Elements of Intentional Transformation, How to Become Your Best Self. So just a quick recap, and I'll do that on every one of these foundational levels so you can see it build up as we go. But in the introduction, I talked about values are the foundation for everything. If we want to have true transformation, we got to focus on our values and do some real reflection there. And then I talked about the first foundational element in the last episode, and that was thought is the foundation of choice. And today, this second layer is choice is the foundation for vision. So I want to step right back just for a moment before we get going too deep and talk about thought. And I want to talk about the thought that changed my life, which is actually, I talk about that in chapter 3 in the book. But it's in that first foundational layer of thought is the foundation of choice. And I got a podcast episode purely on this, and it was episode number 16 if you want to go back. I'm not going to teach in depth on it right here. But there's a quote in the opening chapter that says, "Nothing splendid has ever been achieved except by those who dared believe that something inside themselves was superior to circumstance." That's by Bruce Barton. And what I say is, in order to transform yourself, you must first be able to lead yourself. And the thought that changed my life happened in 2008 when I first put in my first audio related to any kind of development like this, and it was on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, just an overview. And I heard Dr. Covey say, between stimulus and response, we have the ability to pause and choose our response. As simple as those words sound today, they were profound at that moment in 2008 when I heard them. That's the thought literally that changed my life. It was the spark. And I realized I could work on, first of all, was my temper. And that's what I got busy on. It's one of the things that I needed to work on the most. And I realized that. So if you want to go back and listen to that in-depth episode again, that's podcast episode number 16. But today, let's go on into level 2 of these foundational elements of intentional transformation. So thought was the first level. It's the foundation for choice. And now I'm talking to you about choice. It's the foundation for vision. Obviously, you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of choices that you make every day. Some are big and you know they're big. Some are little, but they're big too, but you may not know how big they are. But some are little and they're just little. But you have choices all day long. So you have to remember, I'm talking about transformation. So everything I'm talking about in this series is relative to transformation. So thought's the foundation for choice, which is, again, starts with your values, then your thoughts, and that leads to choices. And what I'm saying right here, let's forget about all those other choices at the moment. Choice is the foundation for vision. What I'm saying there is that's one of your choices, is to choose to have a vision. Some people don't choose to have a vision. They just get up every day and go round and round like they did yesterday, and they get up again tomorrow and do the same exact thing. They haven't even really thought about it. They can create a vision, whatever that means. As I shared a moment ago, at one point, my vision was to fix my temper. And I got to work on it once I started learning these principles. But later, further down the road, that was in 2008, by 2012, I had a vision for doing what I'm doing right now. Actually, I didn't have the vision for a podcast, but I had a vision to learn about leadership, start speaking about leadership, and hopefully one day I would have some books. And that was in 2012. And today, here in 2020, I've got 13 books. But it all started because I had a choice to choose a vision. And I actually made that choice, adopted that vision, started seeing myself doing that stuff, but then I had to figure out how to do it. This is what I know. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up somewhere else. And I don't necessarily know who you are listening at this moment, but I want you to think, if you have to, hit pause on whatever you're listening to this podcast on. You may need to hit pause in a second and think about it. But are you literally today where at some point in your life in the past you decided, this is where I want to be, and you worked really hard to be exactly where you are? Or you're like I used to be before I discovered all this stuff and got really thinking about it and created a vision and then followed through and made it happen. I was just going through life, accepting whatever opportunities I got. And basically where I was at, I kind of had got there by accident. Ultimately, everything was a choice, and I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But I was making short-term choices based on other people's idea of what they wanted for me and with me, or what they wanted me to do. I would take any promotion I got just because I wanted a promotion, not because I was actually interested and passionate about doing whatever job I was being given. I just wanted to climb the corporate ladder and climb the corporate pay scale. A lot of times that's how people get where they are. They're just trying to make more money, but they're not happy. I'm telling you, if you start doing what makes you happy, you're either going to have plenty of money and be happy, or you ain't going to have plenty of money and be happy. But either way, you're going to be happy. That's the ultimate goal. So I want you to put that context in your mind as you go through the rest of this series with me. And hopefully you got the book so you can really dig into it, mark it up, think about it, pause, digest it, make that book a little tool. But this is where it starts right here. What vision do you have of yourself? It can be related to many, many things. It can be related to your job. It can be related to your relationship with your significant other, with your children. It could be like me. I needed to work on my temper. And a lot of other things relative to my character, which we'll talk about throughout the session or throughout this series. But destiny, this is a quote by Jennings Bryan. He says, destiny is not a matter of chance, but a matter of choice. It's not a thing to be waited for, but is a thing to be achieved. Sometimes when I'm talking to small groups, I'll ask them. The first thing I mentioned, though, is I mentioned the quality of your choices depends on the quality of your thoughts. And so we're talking about choice now becoming the foundation that leads us to vision. But I'll ask these small groups sometimes, I'll say, when's the last time you spent 10 minutes a day for 90 days in a row thinking about where you want to be and how you're going to get there? Doing that is simply a choice. That's just one choice. But for most people, what I've discovered, especially my people, when I say that, I'm talking about the blue collar folks, especially those on the front lines, those working hard, those trying to get to a better place in life. And maybe it's financially, maybe it's related to the work they do. Maybe they want to be in leadership. Maybe they want a completely different job. And sometimes maybe they don't even want a blue collar job. Maybe they actually want a white collar job. It doesn't matter what it is. But what I figured out is most people haven't spent one day thinking intentionally for 10 minutes about where they want to be and how they're going to get there. And to me today, that sounds crazy, but it's true. Think about it. Hit that pause button if you need to. Most people don't need to because they haven't done it. But think about it. When's the last time you literally spend at least one day for 10 minutes somewhere quiet on purpose, going round and round in your head about where you are and where do you want to be, and then figuring out what that gap is and how do I close it. It's crazy, but a lot of people don't do it. Far too many people get trapped in a never-ending cycle of doing the same thing day in and day out while hoping, wishing, and praying for different results. And this makes absolutely no sense when you actually think about it. But that's the problem. Most people don't think about it. And again, if you don't know where you're going to end up somewhere else. So what we have to do is we must accept responsibility for the choices we make and the choices we avoid making. See, a lot of people don't even slow down and think about that. Not making a choice is a choice. If you don't choose to cast a vision for yourself, and you may not be able to see years and years ahead, but how far ahead can you see? Because I'm going to tell you, when you get to that point, you're going to be able to see farther, just like driving your car. If you left on a 1,000-mile trip right now, you can't see the 1,000 miles. I'm telling you. You already know it. It's common sense. You may not even be able to see it on a mile unless you're on a straight road. But what I do know is when you start moving and you keep moving, you're going to see the entire trip by the time you reach your destination. And when you get there, you're going to be able to see further and farther. You may want to go somewhere you didn't even know you wanted to go. That's what happens when you do this. If you can't start big, start small. But the key is you have to start. And when you learn to do this as an adult, if you have children or grandchildren in your life, if you can teach them what's in this book, it's going to be powerful for them in their life. But again, the quality of your choices depends on the quality of your thoughts. That's why thought is the foundation for choice. But now the choice, one of those choices is, again, choose a vision. You've got thousands of choices. Right now I'm saying hone in on one. At this level, you hone in on one. Vision. And again, it could be vision in multiple areas of your life. So when it comes to creating a compelling vision for yourself, you got to intentionally tap into your passions and your purpose. Some people don't know what that is either, because they're not even, the reason they don't know what their passion and purpose is because they're not doing it. When you ask somebody what they're passionate about, if they don't really know, they're not doing it. If they knew, if you can't tell, I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I know this is my purpose. I used to not be that guy. That's why I wrote this book. I wanted to help people figure out, how do you go figure out how to have the life I have, but not like me doing what I do necessarily, but living in with passion and purpose. How do you find that? You figure out what it is. It may be something, and most likely will be something completely different that I'm doing. It could be the same. You got to decide. But you have to begin to think of what could be. And I'm telling you, I mentioned it already, but too many people chase money instead of things that make them happy. And as a result, they get neither, because they're not passionate and they're not on purpose. So they may make decent money, but they don't make great money because they ain't passionate. I'm telling you, you find somebody who's doing the same thing you're doing, if they're passionate and you're not, they're going to wear you out every time. That's just the way it is. If they're passionate about it, because they're going to learn about it at a different level, they're going to go home from work and study about it and read about it. Watch videos, listen to audios. But if you're just doing it for the money, you're going to go home and do something different. And a lot of times what you're going to do is actually what you're passionate about. I've known people who work in the metal industry. I'm thinking of one guy in particular. He run a big brake press. And every day he'd go home and work in his cabinet shop he had on the side. Why in the world would this man have that on the side? There's a lot of reasons. He didn't have a vision to go do it himself. He may have been insecure. He thinks he's got to have he got to have the benefits that come with the job. He ain't even understood that if he goes and lives with passion and purpose, doing what he loves, he might make 2, 3, 10 times as much money. He can pay for the benefits. He won't need those benefits, but he can't see it. So he goes round and around like the little rat on the wheel. So you'll be the happiest when you're earning a living doing something you're passionate about and it truly interests you. I'm recording this podcast at about 6:50 in the morning, the day after Christmas. I do these things to get ahead. And I know it's coming out a couple weeks into January. But I've been up this morning writing posts. If you follow me on LinkedIn, or now I'm on Instagram too, and Facebook, Twitter, I write posts. I post memes and pictures, motivational, inspirational thoughts and quotes. But sometimes I write a little paragraph or 2 or 3 to go with it. Sometimes it takes me an hour to do that because I'm trying to get a lot of meaning in just a few words. Because they only give you, like in LinkedIn, only 1,300 characters. That ain't much, especially for me. So I've been doing that this morning. I've been reading. Nobody's paying me to do that. And I've been doing that for years and years and years, every day, because I'm passionate about it. I don't need to get paid to do it. I'm not getting paid to do this for you at this moment. I'm passionate about it. Nobody needs to pay me. I ain't doing it for the pay. The pay's fine. I get paid other ways, but it ain't about the pay. I ain't trying to make a lot of money. I'm trying to make a lot of difference. What I'm trying to help you do is to lead yourself well in a way that you can figure out how to earn a good living, be happy, doing whatever it is that makes you happy. It ain't that hard, but I can't do it for you. You got to figure it out. That's what this series is about. It's a mental roadmap. How do you get there? But odds are you'll also earn more money over a lifetime doing it when you're passionate about it. Maybe not in the beginning, but long term. See, that's another thing. A lot of people focus on the short term. They ain't focusing on the long term. But it's like when you start living off of and working off of your passion, it's like money in the bank. It's compounded like interest. It's over the longer time passes, the more time that passes, the more success and result and happiness and all that stuff you're going to get. And if you don't get the money you want, it's not going to matter because you'll be happy. Simply because you're doing what you love. You may be thinking, oh yeah, but I need some money. Well, you may need some money now because you hadn't planned and had the vision to go do what you're passionate about. Which means it's going to take you a little longer because now you got to pay for the consequences of choices made in the past that wasn't based on your vision. You may have to go get out of debt. That ain't a bad thing anyway. Go get out of debt. Do what you love. Your life will be great. The entire rest of your life will be great. That's another thing we can do for the young people. You start learning this kind of stuff, you help them find their vision at an earlier age. You help them stay out of debt so they can go live that vision, follow their passion to find their purpose. So developing a vision, big or small, is a choice. We must think on purpose about our purpose. But most people are far removed from their purpose. When asked what their purpose is, most don't have an answer, like I mentioned before. However, the most common answer is, I don't know, or I've never really thought about it. And I'm going to tell you this, you got to, and I write about this a lot in my book, Defining Influence, too. You've got to follow your passion to find your purpose. Most people can't just say, this is my purpose. Even if they want to, they still don't really know. But how do you find it? Is you follow your passion. Because that's where you'll grow the most, you'll do the most, you have the most energy, you're most motivated, inspired relative to your passion. But again, A lot of people go through their entire day and they're not even living in alignment with their passion. So transformation turns vision into reality. That's what this whole thing is about. This whole book, this entire series, it's about transformation. It's about this right here, turning your vision into reality. Turning your potential into your reality. But you must, first, you got to intentionally choose to dream of what's possible. You got to dream about it, imagine it, whatever words you want to think about it, whatever, it's all the same thing. Dreaming, imagining, thinking. You must choose to let your imagination run wild. Who do you want to become? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? When do you want to go? And this is key. Don't ask, can I do it? Because the answer, you may say no. So don't give yourself that option. Don't say, can I do it? Ask, is it possible? Is it possible? Can I do it may get you to no. Is it possible? Get you to yes. And then you think, after you figure out it's possible, you think, how can I make it happen? And again, this book's going to help you think through all of that. You really need the book. I'm telling you a lot of good stuff on here, but the book will walk you through it slowly at your pace, and it'll fill in a lot of gaps that maybe I'm not covering here because I'm talking about 2 or 3 chapters worth of content, and I'm adding other content to try to motivate and inspire you to want to dive into this book and take yourself to the next level. That may be one of the answers. How can I make it happen? You get this book and you dive into it. It'll be the best $18 you ever spent in your life if you do it. If you don't do it, it'll be a waste of your money. And not only how can I make it happen, when can I make it happen? And then follow up with the most important question of all. What's stopping me from making it happen? What's stopping me from making it happen? Earl Nightingale said this: a man's environment is a merciless mirror of him as a human being. If you're not happy at work, or you're not happy at home, or you're not happy in certain relationships, whether they're at work or at home, you're not happy with your income, maybe you're not happy with your education, whatever it is that you may be unhappy with, maybe not happy with your career. You may have went and got a degree because you was thinking about making money, and then you got out and either figured out you couldn't make any money, or you started making money with that degree, but you don't like what you're doing. You're not happy. A man's environment, or a woman, our environment is a merciless mirror of who we are as a human being. What that means is our environment, what we see when we look around, is a result of our choices. Our environment is a reflection of our choices. So choices create the future. It's going to be a good future or a bad future. Depends on your choices. What we choose to do today will determine what we get to do tomorrow. Stephen Covey had this to say. He says, show me someone who is humble enough to accept and take responsibility for his or her circumstances and courageous enough to take whatever initiative is necessary to creatively work his or her way through or around these challenges. And I'll show you the supreme power of choice. Again, those are the words of Dr. Stephen Covey, the man who was on that audio in 2008, the very first leadership, personal growth, development content I ever was exposed to. Little 1-hour audio. That's what this is about. Transformation. As Dr. Henry Cloud says, if you've already been trying hard, maybe trying harder is not the way. Try different. That's what I'm trying to do in this book, in this series. I'm trying to help you think differently. If you want a different result, you got to think differently. If you want dramatically different results, you got to think dramatically different. John G. Miller remarked, "There's nothing you have to do. We all have the power to make a decision that will direct us to a new destination. Each of us can make a choice that will change our life." It's that simple, but it's difficult. So you can't predict your future, but you can create your future. A lot of people just wait and see what's going to happen tomorrow. They hope and wish and wonder. I'm telling you, that's not a strategy. But understanding you can you can't predict your future, but you can create your future. That's powerful and profound if you've never taken the time to slow down and truly think it out. The thousands of choices we make every day of our life not only shape our life, but they also create our future. Nelson Mandela had this to say, "May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears." See, someone who's not doing a lot of thinking intentionally, like I'm talking to you about, who diving into this book or listening to this series, who really taking control of their mind to get them from where they are to where they want to be, to close that gap, many of their choices are based on fear. Fear of what might happen because they don't know, because they're not in control. You might be afraid you're going to get laid off. If you're in control, you ain't worried about getting laid off. You got options. But if you're just flowing with the current, you may not have options. You get laid off tomorrow, your life may be in chaos. That's a big sign. That's a signal. That's like a little test. Ask yourself, if you got laid off tomorrow, would your life be chaos? If it would be, that means you don't have options. That's not your leader's fault. You may have a terrible leader, but the leader that's causing you not to have options is you. We like to blame others because then we don't have to do anything. You want to have a good life, you need options. And defining influence, increasing your influence, increases your options. That's another one of my books. It's a thicker book, about 250 pages. It's kind of my foundational book. You can learn a lot in that book, but you need to get this mental roadmap in your head first and then figure out what books you need to read to go learn to take yourself from where you are to where you want to be. One of the things about choices, our choices are the ink we use to write our story. Your choice is the ink you use to write your story. Every time you make a choice, you add another paragraph to your story. You get to decide, what do you want your story to say? So I'm going to leave you with this quote from my amazing wife, Rhea. And if you don't know Rhea, you need to check her out at rheastory.com. Rhea, kind of like Kia the car, but with an R. RIASTORY.com. If you're a lady or you got a lady in your life, you need to turn her on to Rhea. Rhea focuses on leadership development for women. She's got lots of books too. And her passion is helping women become the leaders they're destined to be. But Rhea says this: choices always come with consequences. Choosing wisely brings the consequences we want in life. Choosing poorly will bring the consequences we don't want in life. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership Series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.